All right, guys, don't you just love the idea that our elected public representatives, right? People who are supposed to be leaders in this country, okay, during a time of crisis, right? What's going on in Afghanistan, right? According to the Democrats, the pandemic, right? All types of things going on here, right? That, we could classify as a crisis, right? Don't you just love during those times that our politicians are hard at work trying to solve these problems, right? Trying to figure out, hey, you know what? How can we get Americans who are trapped in Afghanistan back home, right? How can we make sure that they're not being beaten by the Taliban, right? How can we make sure these things? That's what you would think a lot of these politicians, especially the Senate majority leader, will be working on right now. But apparently that's not, right? As Chuck Schumer was mocked over dancing in Central Park with Stephen Colbert. Funny man, Stephen Colbert. Okay, this is what he was doing. Again, during this time, he was caught doing a jig with Stephen Colbert, who, in my opinion, should worry about Greg Gutfeld. Okay, because Greg Gutfeld, it seems like his late night ratings are catching up to Stephen Colbert, right? He might become the king of late night if Stephen Colbert keeps slacking like this. But, Stephen Colbert has become a political hack. With that being said, it's unsurprising that he's dancing with Chuck Schumer, who's a political hack as well. You know who else is also dancing during these times? The Taliban, right? I would show that video, but that video has guns, right? In an uncontrolled environment, so I don't want to show that, right, on YouTube. But, yeah, they're dancing too, right? So, again, we have elected leaders and politicians, right, in this country, dancing with funny men on TV, while the Taliban is also dancing too, same time. Again, all of this happening during a raging pandemic, and the fact that we have Americans trapped in Afghanistan potentially being beaten by the Taliban, right? But this is what they have to worry about. Now, this was taken during the We Love New York City concert, right? This is a concert. They called it Backstage Antics, right? This concert also required a vaccine passport, right? A vaccine passport. During a time in which only 28% of young black New Yorkers are vaccinated. So I wonder how many black people were turned down from going to this concert, right? They're probably dancing about that too. Hey, we don't have any black people here, right? We turned them down because they were unvaccinated, right? They're probably dancing to that too, okay? And I mean, for the left, all the people that want to complain about systemic racism, I don't know how you can square the idea of having, a vaccine passport to go to a concert, but also say that you're against systemic racism. Because in my opinion, that by definition would count as systemic racism, considering how black people are disproportionately unvaccinated, right? So, I mean, again, the logic here from the left just not making sense. But there was a lot of criticism here, right? As Twitter users were quick to criticize the video, with one writing, quote, "Life is good for our blue elites while thousands of Americans are stranded behind enemy lines." Quote, "Does anyone else throw up a little in their mouth watching this? I know I sure did." Another user asked, quote, "The majority leader when Americans are trapped in Afghanistan." Another tweet read. Now, some people are saying, well, you can't really criticize Chuck for doing this. Like, what can he do? What can the man do, right? What can he do? Okay, during a time like this, you can't really criticize him. He can't bring him home himself. But regardless of what Chuck can actually do, I'm pretty sure he's a powerful person, right? When you have Glenn Beck out here raising millions of dollars for Christians in Afghanistan, there's something that can be done. Okay, you're supposed to be an elected representative. You're supposed to be setting a good example. Now, these are the same people, the left, right, that criticized Ted Cruz for going to Cancun during that Texas ice storm, right? And listen, I'm gonna be real. I made a video about this. I was critical of Ted Cruz for doing that too, right? Purely because, hey, you had Democrats that were doing things at the time to help out during the crisis, okay? And Ted Cruz, again, got caught doing something that was incredibly boneheaded. So, I mean, I criticize him the same way I'm going to criticize Chuck Schumer for doing something incredibly boneheaded and stupid in the middle of a crisis. Unfortunately, when you're a politician, guys, optics do matter, right? And when you're partying and having fun while black people are being turned away from a concert, right, in the middle of a pandemic, and also while you have Americans being trapped in Afghanistan, thousands of them, and you're doing this, dancing with funny men backstage, yeah, it's a bad look, right? When you're in the public eye, when you're a politician, hey, optics matter, right? This is terrible optics. So again, while our politicians are dancing, right, doing this disaster, the British Parliament is not. The British Parliament is actually furious and pissed off at the Biden administration for basically letting China attain world domination, right? His handling of Afghanistan has really benefited China, which is something I've went over with you guys a lot. But, you know, I love going over what people say on the international stage, because I think it really does kind of present a contrast to what we get in the American media. I think it really helps provide a real perspective as to America's standing in the world in regards to how other people think about us. And that is important, right, to a certain extent. As again, British Parliament members are trashing Biden. And I want to read a couple quotes here because I think these are some really damning quotes. From Lord Sternup, quote, President Biden has suggested that the Afghans are not prepared to fight for their own country. But this ignores two facts. The first is the very large number of Afghan security forces personnel who have been killed in operations over the past 2 decades. And the second is that Afghan society has always placed much greater importance on loyalty to family, village, and clan than to a central government. In such a society, a military force model on the U.S. Army could never in the short term endure without the logistical, technical, and moral support of the U.S. Armed Forces. President Biden purportedly wishes to withdraw from Afghanistan in order to concentrate on China, yet his actions have immediately benefited China on several fronts. Okay, so before I get into that, I do want to say this is, again, a legitimate criticism of Biden, because there's a lot of progressives out here that are just blindly saying, you know what, I agree with Biden. I agree with Biden. I agree with Biden. I just want to pull out. I just want to pull out. Right? Well, you just can't pull out any type of way, or else you're going to spill shit everywhere. Right? Which is basically what happened with Afghanistan. Right? Biden made a big mess because he pulled out recklessly. Okay? Made a big mess. They're just glad that Biden is sticking with his guns, right? You got people like Joy Reid that are saying that. You got a lot of people on the left that are like, well, you know, I don't like Biden on certain things, but he got to stick with his guns, because they fail to really look at the nuance of withdrawing from Afghanistan, in the sense that, yes, everybody wants to withdraw, but you have to do it in a certain way, right? And we should have known that that society, the Afghan society, that culture, we cannot Americanize that culture, right? We can't. Because those people don't want it, right? A large amount of those people don't want it, right? I mean, look, how long did it take us to get rid of slavery? Right? I mean, you know, like, that's not something that just happened like that, right? It was a gradual process, right? Everything is a gradual process. And the amount of time and effort that would have been spent in Afghanistan trying to make them like America would have been, again, probably over 100 years, right? To get it done correctly. Because it takes time for society to evolve, right? Just like it took time for American society to evolve. That's just how things work. So we can't impose our culture on them, right? And again, that trickles all the way down to the military, as this British Parliament member is highlighting. And I think that's a very important point to point out. Although it sounds like some of these people kind of want to stay in Afghanistan forever. But basically what he's saying is that in the short term, that strategy was not going to work without the U.S. Supporting them, right? So again, if the Biden administration knew that Afghanistan would fall, right, to the Taliban no matter what, again, the military should have been the last to leave, and we should have had our military there to support the Afghan army for as long as possible until everybody was evacuated, okay? That's what should have happened, but that's not what happened. Yet his actions have immediately benefited China on several fronts. China is increasingly engaged commercially in Afghanistan and has been negotiating with the Taliban. Again, I've talked to you guys about this before. The Chinese have attempted in the past to get access to those trillions of dollars worth of minerals in Afghanistan, okay? Taken together with Pakistan's increasing reliance on China, this creates a disturbing nexus of power in the region. Even more important is the perception of other countries. If the Western powers are to resist China's assault on the current rules-based international order, they will require strong political, economic, and technological allies in the Indo-Pacific region, who now, though, will be prepared to throw in their lot with a U.S.-led effort when that country's leadership has proven such fickle friend to Afghanistan. Wow. He's like, bro, who gonna pull up with y'all again in the future, right? Ain't nobody pulling up with y'all no more in the future when y'all leadership is weak, okay? Perhaps the minister can say what the implications are for the UK's own tilt to the Indo-Pacific, which was such a prominent feature of the recent integrated review. All right. Again, very damning quote there. This one's from Lord Blencathra. Okay, it says, quote, "My lords, all my life I have been pro-American and favorably disposed to the United States, but not anymore at this moment. What Biden has done in Afghanistan will go down in ignominy as one of the most shameful and despicable acts of betrayal by any American president." Wow. The most shameful and despicable acts of betrayal, right? They say they felt betrayed. Tens of thousands of men will be slaughtered, thousands of young girls forced to marry these Taliban brutes, and 14 million women driven back into slavery. Afghanistan was emerging into the light with freedoms for women and children who will be ruled with 500-year barbaric religious laws. That is Biden's legacy. He can't blame it on Trump. Biden boasted that in his first 100 days, he issued a record 24 executive orders, all of which were direct reversals of Trump's policies. He should have listened to his generals and changed his policy also. This is not like Saigon. It is far worse. First, the retaliation against the population by Islamic fanatics is likely to be far greater than what the North Vietnamese did to the beaten South. Secondly, the appalling humanitarian crisis described in this House today will center on Afghanistan, but the terrorist consequences of this U.S. sellout will affect us all. Woo! Wow. Bro, the Brits do not hold back. Right? The Brits are some straight shooters, man. Now, I want to reiterate, I don't necessarily agree with what sounds like a pro stay in Afghanistan forever because of women and children and equal rights and stuff like that. I don't necessarily agree with that part of what they're saying. But I do think that the idea that Biden turned his back on Afghanistan by just, again, withdrawing all of our military, right? And not actually supporting the Afghan army against the Taliban, at the very least, until all U.S. citizens and refugees and our allies were evacuated. Okay, we should have at least been there that long. Now, after that, after all those people are out of there, you know, if Biden decided, hey, you know what, we gonna pull out, right? Hey, at the end of the day, I can't really criticize them that much because, again, we can't stay there forever, right? I mean, listen, they either want it or they don't, right? You either want it or you don't. But, I mean, I guess we could have still kind of provided some strategic air support, you know, things like that that could have minimized U.S. casualties, right? I think that still could have been an option on the table, right? A lot of this stuff is a lot more nuanced, okay, than what we can really get into in a video, okay, in terms of what could have been done. But in general, I just think that Biden's decision to just pull out the military before everybody else was just terrible, right? And I think that is really the cause of a lot of these issues, to be quite honest with you. Because if Afghanistan was just going to fall, it was just going to fall, right? Again, at the very least, if we know it's going to fall, let's get everybody out before that actually happens, right? I think that's probably what the biggest criticism is of Biden, in my opinion. The Viet Cong had no agenda outside of Vietnam, but Afghanistan is now under the control of Islamist fascists who want to wage war on every Western democracy. Biden has put America back into the bunker. The lesson for China is this: play a long game and America will not have the stomach to stick it out. China is a threat to world peace, but how can we now trust the U.S. to lead the long battle against it? Biden may have condemned the world to Chinese domination in the future and the end of Western liberal democracy. Yeah, man. Look, it's hard not to read those statements and not agree to a certain extent, right, in regards to Biden's leadership and our standing on the world stage, okay? And this is something I know I've talked to you guys about a lot. But the reason why, guys, is because it's so important, right? It really is. It's one of those things that, you know, as a global superpower, this calls into question, you know, our commitment to the things that we say we're fighting for, right? And when something like this happens, it has effects throughout the world, and it cannot be understated how much our allies are now looking at us with the side eye, right? They're looking at us with the side eye, right? They don't trust us anymore. And because of that, that is going to open up a lot of opportunities for China and for Russia. And it's going to make it harder for us to compete on the world stage and for us to, continue to be dominant on the world stage politically. It just is. In my opinion, guys, that signals the decline of an empire. Every great empire falls, and that's not something that I want to see. But, under the Biden administration, it looks like, our leadership on the world stage is really being questioned. So, I mean, this is some scary stuff, man. And these comments from these British leaders are definitely not making it any better in regards to how our allies feel about us. Because, again, they went in with us, right? Believing in our mission, believing in what we was trying to accomplish. And the fact that it ended like this, a lot of people are not happy, right, on the world stage. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.